5 with a developing story. 1 hour from now, Oklahoma set to carry out the state's first execution since last April. Charles Warner scheduled to die at 6 p.m. tonight for killing a baby back in 1997. His death by lethal injection will be Oklahoma's first since the botched execution of Clayton Lockett last spring. 2 News working for you tonight with live team coverage. 2 News reporter Liz Bryant live in Tulsa, where a prayer vigil by death penalty opponents is getting underway. But we begin tonight live at 5 o'clock in McAllister at the state penitentiary, where less than an hour from now, Clayton Lockett, or I should say Charles Warner rather, will breathe his last breath. Charles Warner was set to die last April, the same night as Clayton Lockett. But when Lockett's execution went awry, Warner's was temporarily canceled. Warner stands convicted of killing his roommate's child. He and others on death row have filed lawsuits and petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court asking for the executions to be delayed or stopped altogether. So far, that hasn't happened. Tonight, for the first time, the newly renovated death chamber will be used. The biggest change comes in the room behind where the execution will actually take place. That room has been expanded with a lot more medical equipment, and there's an opportunity for better communication and more documentation.
From this point forward is actually the additional space that we added, and in doing so, as you can see, we added additional equipment and also the ability to maintain an inventory of supplies that are needed for this process.
As for the execution chamber itself, the room is smaller by about 3 feet, and the 50s era bed has been replaced with a modern electric one. The renovations cost taxpayers $106,000, about $71,000 for construction. The rest went for medical supplies. And despite the last-minute request for stays of execution, it appears that this execution will go on as planned about 1 hour from now. Our team coverage continues with 2 News reporter Liz Bryant. She is live in Tulsa, where death penalty opponents are protesting and praying. Liz, how's it going there?
Well, Russ, in just about 30 minutes, a prayer vigil starts here at Church of the Madeleine near 21st and Harvard. I just spoke with a parishioner who says this is, of course, a tradition for Catholicism because they are pro-life, and that means that life begins at conception and ends at natural death. She tells me that by executing a man, you are taking life out of God's hands and putting it into your own hands. She expects a few more people to show up tonight than normal since there is more publicity surrounding Charles Warner's execution. Now, during this traditional Catholic prayer vigil, they will pray for Charles Warner. They will pray for the 11-month-old that was murdered. They will pray for the families of everyone involved and all the attorneys. And coming up tonight at 6 in just about an hour, I will reveal why the priest here, why the father here is actually not going to be here tonight. He's in McAllister and what he's doing. Live right now in Midtown, Liz Bryant, 2 News works for you.
All right, Liz, thanks. Going in depth now. The state has executed more than 100 people since 1915. Each inmate spends an average of 7.5 years on death row. The youngest inmate to be killed was 18, electrocuted back in 1933. The oldest inmate to be killed was 74. The average age of an inmate to be executed is 38. And we're monitoring the very latest on tonight's execution on our website, KJRH.com. There we've posted the copy of the last meal request. You'll also see a look back at the hurdles that the state has jumped through to carry out this execution.